preacher say one time that until you're prepared to die, you're not really prepared to live. And so that has really sort of resonated with me through the years, that not that I'm ready to die or anything, but that, you know, now I can truly live.
Hi everyone, this is Charles McNeely from Dev Doc Theater. I am honored to be here in the home of Mr. Steve Schindler, who we'll be talking to about his life career of funeral direction and bringing understanding to the misunderstood of that vocation, job, career.
And I've been to lots of funerals before, you know, prior to this, but had no idea what those funeral directors did, you know, especially behind the scenes. When someone passes, normally there are two directors who would go out to wherever the person passed, whether it be hospital or at the home or hospice facility or wherever. We would get a call from the nurse or the police officer or whoever it might be. We go and we meet with the family or whoever's there. We gather information. We talk to them about any plans that they may have put in place ahead of time. Then we bring the body back to the funeral home and begin preparation to do whatever needs to be done. If it's going to be a traditional funeral with a casket, there has to be embalming and preparation, you know, clothing and that kind of thing. And so we begin that process. Then we make an appointment with the family member, whoever that person would be, the next of kin or the spokesperson for the family, I guess. We make an appointment for them to come in, sit down and go through all of the paperwork, make some decisions as far as what type of service, casket, urn, you know, if there's going to be cremation. We make all those decisions.
And it can be more than...
Of course, yeah. Yeah, sometimes we have 10 people in the arrangement room, yeah, so it just depends. And so, and we make those arrangements. Then we go about putting an obituary in the newspaper. We call the church. If it's going to be a church service, you know, we make arrangements for a minister or a priest. We contact the cemetery to make sure that they have cemetery property in place. If they need to go take care of any unfinished business there, we get on their schedule so that, you know, the day of the funeral we can complete the burial. Then we just make plans for the service. We're basically event planners, and so we take care of everything that needs to be done as far as planning that event. And then of course, when the day of the funeral, we make sure that all of the music is taken care of, and if there's things like a rosary or that kind of thing, we make sure that the rosary people have what they need, and the priest or minister. And then we would go to the cemetery, have a little committal service there at the cemetery. Normally, the cemetery people like to wait until the family leaves, and then we take the casket to the gravesite and do the burial. And by Louisiana law, we're required to have a licensed funeral director on site to witness the burial of it. And so we typically stay there until that burial is complete, and then our job's done with that service, except for what we call aftercare, where we check in on with the family periodically afterwards, you know, just to make sure.
Is that a decision by the family, or is that something that pretty much is part of the process? Okay.
Another thing that I do, and there's a separate license for this, is something I forgot about, was pre-arrangements, pre-need. Whenever folks want to make arrangements ahead of time, I can help folks with that as well. And the nice thing about people doing that is that they can lock in today's prices. And generally, folks might not be aware of this, is that funeral prices in general double every 10 years. And so let's say, you know, your funeral today is $10,000. It's going to be $30,000 in 20 years. You lock in today's prices and you say you live another 30 years, you never pay any more than today's prices. So, and then also recently got my life and health insurance license, where I can help folks with not only pre-arrangements but with Medicare. So people who are needing help, navigating the Medicare thing, I can help with that as well. So
for people, that's very helpful to peace of mind whenever it's going to happen. Is there anything that you feel is most misunderstood about what a funeral director is and does?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is that a lot of people have asked me through the years about kind of what you're asking me, like what exactly do you do? And a lot of people aren't aware that we actually go and pick up the deceased, like whether it could be in the middle of the night. We take night call, and so people don't know this, but there's a little funeral car out there, and there's
at 3:30 in the morning. Yes, okay. So whenever you're needed, you're there, and so they weren't aware of that somebody, the funeral director, is.
Yeah, and then also, especially with pandemic over the last few years, a lot of folks were displaced, and had to go to other cities like Houston and Baton Rouge, and especially elderly people in nursing homes. And so we would get those calls, and and have to make arrangements to get them back to Lake Charles. And I think a lot of people maybe aren't aware of all the behind the scenes. I know I used to think like I didn't know how that person got in that casket and wound up in the front of the stateroom, for the celebration. But we do all of that. We have a great team, and we all pitch in, and we dress and casket and make preparations, and we want to make sure that the presentation of the deceased is dignified. The other thing that I think is a little comical, really, is that a few people ask me occasionally, how do you deal with dead people, every day? And my answer is that I don't really deal with dead people. I'm an arranging director, and so my primary duty is to deal with the living more than the dead.
Okay. Any of these things you just said, or what for you? What's the most challenging part?
As a funeral director, you see things that you can't unsee. You see things that nobody should ever have to see, and that's a challenge. And something I'll never ever get used to is when we have to bury someone's child. Especially the child of a friend, or a close friend, or when I have to bury a close friend. Those are very, very challenging. That's when we bury a veteran. Those are always touching. Very, very, very emotional when they do the flag presentation. They do the honor guard and that kind of thing. Firefighters, police officers. When they do the last call, that kind of thing, it gets to you. Yeah, it really does. And as far as, that's not really, I wouldn't even say that that's challenging. It's just more of it's moving.
Moving for you. You feel it personally, you feel it.
And I guess really the challenging part to me is, and with lots of professions, is like all the paperwork, all of the things that you have to do behind the scenes to keep it all together. And when we get really busy, and believe it or not, there's a season. It's sort of seasonal during the winter months, and that's another thing maybe that people wouldn't understand or wouldn't think about would be during the Christmas holidays, during the winter months, colder months, is our really busy time. When all of our directors are waiting on a number of families, it can be a juggling act, so to make sure everybody gets taken care of. Yeah.
So 5 years that you've been doing this. For now, what's the most fulfilling part?
I would say the most fulfilling part for me, and I think about it a lot. Because we deal with death, every day, and we deal with grieving families every day. And I think that for the first time in my life with this profession, when I lay my head on the pillow at night, I can rest knowing that I helped somebody in some of the most difficult days of their life, and that's very rewarding, because most families who come to me to make arrangements for a funeral for their loved one, they can barely breathe. much less select a casket and a guest book and choose days and times and those kind of things. And so being able to hold it all together when everyone is falling apart around you is, I take it seriously, and I think it's very, very important. I know when my parents passed, we used Johnson's Funeral Home, and they were just wonderful. They made it easy, for us to do all that. And so if I can give some of that back to my families, that's my goal, So and so that's I guess the most rewarding thing for me, just to be able to help.
Is there a life lesson or a few life lessons that you've learned personally from these experiences or this experience?
I'll tell you, Charlie, probably the greatest lesson that I've learned, and I learn it constantly, is the appreciation that I have for life. I appreciate life more every day, in the life that we have, the life that we're given. That a lot of people, I'm 63, a lot of people, and I'm getting older, but I don't mind getting older because a lot of people don't have that opportunity. They didn't plan on not waking up tomorrow. They were making plans, and whatever life I have left, I want to make sure and live it to the fullest, and this job helps me to appreciate it. Probably the most significant thing that's ever happened to me in my life, I came into a personal relationship with God through Jesus Christ about 23 years ago. We were at a friend's home during Lent doing a little Bible study, and the conversation was, of course it was during Lent, so it was about the Passion, and it was way before the movie came out, The Passion of the Christ. But we were discussing that and talking about the brutality of crucifixion, which it never really occurred to me how brutal that really was. And that just started to work on me, and it worked on me over the next week or so. And as I came to understand how terrible that was, then that he volunteered to do that, that he actually came down from heaven to wind up there on that cross, and that he did it for us. Then there was that moment where I realized that he did it for me, a scoundrel like me. And and that changed everything, because I didn't know that I didn't have any hope before, but now I really had hope. And so it was the cross, the cross and what he did on that cross that changed everything for me. And I think, and I've heard this said, but this is what I experienced, that I knew about God and that I knew all about it, but I didn't know it in my heart. And when it drops from here to here, that's where it makes. And I would say one other thing, because I think a lot of people possibly misunderstand this aspect of Christianity, is that by no means am I perfect since I became a Christian. Quite the opposite. I'm not anywhere near, but I have a perfect hope in a perfect Savior. And so.
Well, Steve, last question. Is there anything that I haven't asked about that you would like us to know about funeral direction and that?
One thing that I would like people to know is that we have a great team that we work with at the funeral home. I work with some wonderful people. They're kind of my family. I feel like I spend more time at the funeral home than I do at home a lot of times, and that we keep each other going, and we keep each other upbeat. And
well, Steve, I hope this 5 years, let's hope it gets to 15 or 20, and you're still able to do this, because I know you bring so much to the people.
Well, I hope so. I hope I can do it, like you said, I'm going to do it as long as I can. as long as I'm living and breathing, I'll keep on going.
Well, thank you, and this is your story, and we're going to get it ready, and hopefully in a couple of months we'll have it. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope you learned as much as I did, and hopefully it'll be something that you can take with you and just expand your mind to what actually is happening in this world and in the world of funeral direction. Thank you much for listening. Take care.